By the way, I forgot to mention in the Big South, High Point's like minus 250. Everybody else is 9-1 or higher, so they're a clear-cut favorite in that one. And there's only obviously 7 other teams they'd have to beat because they get to the quarterfinals. Horizon League is wide open, and this is a totally different type of handicap, and it's a totally different type of format. This is what I'm talking about knowing the format. Very unique situation here. We have 11 teams in the Horizon League, and the first 2 rounds are actually played on true home courts, the opening round and the quarterfinals. And then the semis and finals next week will be in Indianapolis. This is an 8-day tournament. It starts tomorrow on Tuesday, and it finishes next week on Tuesday on a neutral court. So something to keep in mind with your handicapping. Once again, the top 4 seeds, as a lot of tournaments do now, the top 4 seeds get a double bye, basically, or a single bye to the quarterfinals. They'll get a home game in a couple nights, which means the bottom teams all have to play extra games. Green Bay is by far the worst team in this conference, 2-18. As you see there, they're one of the worst teams in the nation. Detroit Mercy, pretty bad as well. But something else I want to point out about this tournament, and it's very unique. I don't think many others do this. They reseed every round because the lowest seed plays the highest seed. So it's not a locked-in bracket like you see in all these other conferences and in the NCAA tournament. So number 1 seed Robert Morris does not know necessarily who they will play. They don't just automatically play like the winner of the lowest seed game, and they'll get the lowest seed, which could be any of these teams. So a little bit of a twist there. Those games are on Thursday, so they'll only have 1 day of prep. But once again, on 1 day short's notice for both squads, and with travel factored in for the lower seed, definitely lean towards those 4 home teams, the top 4 seeds on Thursday in the quarterfinal round. So something to keep an eye on there. As far as the odds in this conference, it's wide open. You've got Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Robert Morris, Cleveland State, all at like 2.5 to 1. All 3 of them less than 3 to 1. And then you've got like Fort Wayne, Youngstown, both around 8 to 1. So this conference is wide open. I really think it could go to anybody. It's a very mediocre league. Every team is outside the top 150 in net rating. High Point was like top 90. All these teams are not even in the top half of the country. 364 teams, and none of them are even top 150. So it's a real bottom feeder league. I think we could see some upsets here, but just wanted to point out the unique format that they reseed and that there are true home courts in the first couple rounds. We're going to look at the Big South, also going to look at the Horizon League. They both start this week, and talk some general thoughts when handicapping these college tournaments so they can be great moneymakers. So the first thing I'll mention, though, is that the lines are accurate this time of the year. And in fact, the sharpest, most accurate lines in the entire college basketball season are going to be the next 2 weeks during the conference tournaments. And it makes a lot of sense why. They all have common opponents. They've all played 10, 12, 14 common opponents, 18 common opponents in some leagues. So the odds makers have a good database to look at. And it really is as simple as looking at conference-only stats. So if you want to analyze these games throughout all the November and December, because a lot of these mid-major teams, smaller conference teams, get blown out early, working new pieces in. Conference-only stats are a great handicapping tool this time of the year, and I think they're very reliable. You also want to make sure, obviously, key players weren't missing or have come back. Let's start with the Big South tournament. The formats also, you got to look into the formats of these tournaments. Some play on home courts, some don't. Most don't anymore. Some give teams double byes. Some play no rest situations. The Big South tournament is pretty straightforward. There's only 9 teams. This is how it used to be when I started in the 90s, 8, 9-team tournaments. And this is one of the old school formats. The 8 and 9 seeds play each other for an extra game, and then everyone else gets a bye into the quarterfinals. It becomes an 18 tournament. You'll see there are real 2 bottom feeders this year. U.S. Upstate, one of the worst teams in the country, 2-14 in the conference. Gardner-Webb, 5-11. They will play the play-in game, which is tomorrow, actually Wednesday. And then they have to turn right around and play the number 1 seed High Point at noon on Friday, a couple days later. I like it better at a no rest, but one of my favorite angles in conference tournaments, and it'll apply here, is to play the rested number 1 seed against the bottom feeder. Everyone thinks, well, they've got momentum, they're coming in. Now, they had to play the extra game because they're awful. High Point is by far the class of this league. They are the team to beat. I'd be surprised if they don't win it. They're much better than anybody else in this conference. They went overall, I think they only had like 6 losses on the year. High Point's actually a top 90 net rating team. Not going to get an at-large, but they'll make some noise if they do make the NCAA tournament. So whoever wins that play-in game, take a look at High Point on Friday afternoon at noon Eastern. If you're going to play it, I would lay it in that one. Winthrop has made some noise over the years. UNC Asheville, the only other 2 teams here, maybe Radford. But once again, High Point, the class of this league, I'd be very surprised if they don't win it because, once again, it's a one-bid conference, and they have to win it to get in the tournament. Houston always looks good on paper. They do every year. They're always one of the 2 or 3 top only teams in the nation that are top 10 offense and defensive efficiency. They're always one of the one or two best defensive efficiency teams going into the tournament, but it seems like they come up short every year. We'll see if they can get over that hump this year. I think one of the problems with Houston, even though they rank high efficiency offensively, they still always have that one off night, like in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. So we'll see what happens, but they're a very dangerous team. One of the teams that did give them a close game this season was actually Kansas back on January 25th. Jayhawks lost by 6, but it was in double overtime at home. Took them down to the wire there, and that game obviously had a lot of points, mainly because of OT. And Houston's not a team I want to fade. Kansas, I think, is a very overrated team this year. They're just 10-8 in the conference this year. So it's not a revenge spot for Houston. Kansas is coming off a loss to Texas Tech at home on Saturday. I'm going to stay away from the side, though. I'm going to look at the total in this one for a free play, and we'll look under the 132.5. It's been jumping around today, somewhat in that range right now. It's a low total, but Houston is such a great defensive team, and that first game's tempo in Kansas was higher than expected because Kansas likes to play fast. Houston plays at one of the 5 slowest paces in the country. I've always said it's easier to slow down a fast team, but I've also always said that home teams normally dictate tempo, and that Kansas did speed them up a bit in that first meeting. I don't think that happens here again. The fact that it didn't work well for Houston and they needed double OT to win tells me the Cougars are going to control the tempo, dictate the pace here at home. Both teams playing with just 1 day of rest as well. So I think it'll be a slower tempo. Neither team takes many three-point shots. They both get their scoring down low, and these are two of the best two-point defenses in the nation. Slower tempo, good interior defense. I like the under 132.5 tonight between Houston and Kansas, and that's your national TV game Monday at 9 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, Prez, right here we are, March 3rd. The end of the day, this is playoff time. The playoffs begin right now for some of these teams that are not in a playoff spot, that are trying to earn their way into a wild card spot. And of course, that would be the Ottawa Senators. You know, there was a point in time where they were third in the division in the Atlantic. Now they aren't even hanging on to a wild card spot. They're on the outside looking in. And look, the Washington Capitals, took me a long time to buy into this team, much longer than it should have. But man, do I believe in this team at this point now. And you know what? Yeah, sure. They went through a couple games where they dropped some games to teams like St. Louis, like the Flames, you know. And I think that you look at some of these losses against the Lightning and the Blues and the Flames. But you know what? The Blues have been playing some really good hockey. The Lightning have been playing some really good hockey. And you know what? We'll give credit to the Flames because their goaltender is phenomenal, and they won a low-scoring victory over the Washington Capitals. So I'll give a pass to the Washington Capitals over those few games, and they were on fire after the Four Nations break. They just got humbled a little bit in their last few games, and to me, that's the biggest difference. As far as the Ottawa Senators are concerned, they're 1-2 outside of the Four Nations break, and the first win that they got after the Four Nations break, Prez, well, it was against the very team that the Maple Leafs are playing tonight, the San Jose Sharks. And as much as the Sharks are kind of fun to watch this year because of Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini, two young guys playing well, they're a rather easy victory for many teams. And so I'm not that impressed with Ottawa's win over San Jose. Yeah. I think we get a laser-focused Washington Capitals team here. I think Ottawa should be pissed that Washington's lost 3 games. It definitely does not help Ottawa that you're going to get a laser-focused Capitals team. I know this might sound funny, Prez, but I've brought this up before. And during football season, people talk about certain teams performing as -6 or higher favorites or -3 or higher favorites. My favorite time to bet team totals is when a team is between -140 and -160 on the money line. A -150 on the money line typically brings you to +120 or +125 on the team total. That's where I'm going here in this one. You know, I've been liking these team totals. I think this game is a really good example of it. Look, two teams that have some good goaltending, don't get me wrong, but you're getting a very, very motivated and locked-in team here off 3 straight losses. The Capitals, to me, are the side in this one. And the Senators, I'm telling you, Prez, they're going to look back at some of those games they dropped in December and January and think to themselves, man, if we don't even make the playoffs here, they're in tough. Yeah. On Friday, I told you the odds makers expect them and the Rangers to make it. And then what did Columbus do? Columbus went out and won back-to-back games. Yeah. It's going to be very interesting down the stretch. 13-1. One of the last times I'll say it on a WagerTalk network, a WagerTalk show, 13-1. That's the price you're going to get for the Stanley Cup odds for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think if you want to jump in, now is the time. I'm not saying that they're going to win the cup and it's a sure bet, but at 13-1, you have to lock that in for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have won 8 straight games. Florida Panthers are 8-2 in their last 10 games. But most importantly, this Tampa Bay Lightning team, in their 4 games since the Four Nations break, they have surrendered 3 goals. That is extremely impressive when you look at their defense and how they've been playing. I've just been extremely impressed with what they've been doing. I mean, no matter who they play, no matter if it's an elite team, if it's a non-playoff team, if it's an absolute top 5 lottery team, whoever this Tampa Bay Lightning team plays, they play lockdown defense, the same style of hockey, and that's what makes them great. You know, when I look at this Tampa Bay Lightning team, there's 2 players I think of that go under the radar, and we saw a lot of them at the Four Nations break, Prez, and it was Brandon Hagel and Cirelli.
And Cirelli, Cirelli. Yeah.
Those guys are fantastic, and I think that we learned a lot about them. And, you know, going into Four Nations or going into the Olympics, you learn in hockey, you can't bring in 4 lines of superstars to your team, right? Some people were wondering, like, where's Bedard? Where's this guy? Where's that guy? Well, you need to have the shutdown players, and I think Tampa Bay has that. Tampa Bay has the 3rd and 4th liners that can go up against the top line players for Florida and be shut down. So as much as it bothers me, Perez, about the whole LTIR thing, because you're not going to see Tkachuk back, and it seems like every team that wins the Stanley Cup, the next year, their star player goes in LTIR, and now they've got $8 million in cap space. The Lightning are the side tonight. The Lightning are the team playing better, but most importantly, they're playing consistent hockey. I like them tonight, Perez. I like the road team, and I'll tell you what, talk a lot about it on Puck Time, but especially during the playoffs. More and more, I'm not really concerned about home ice advantage anymore. There's some teams in the league that I value it with. There's certain teams in the league that I couldn't care less with it. And in fact, I think we're just getting more value and a better price here with the road team. In fact, we see it all the time. You know, when teams play home and homes, that it doesn't really matter about the who's home or who's away. And a lot of times what happens, Prez, when teams play these home and homes, both teams lose in front of their own crowd. Both road teams will win the home and home, and you know, both home crowds weren't even able to see a victory for their team. So I'll take the Lightning here in the Battle of the Sunshine State. Good one, Prez. As I mentioned, some of these smaller slates, you know, the weirder days in the NHL, giving us these great games. Funny enough, both teams coming off their last game against the exact same team, the Nashville Predators. You know, we saw New York put up 7 goals against the Predators, and we saw the Rangers shut them down 4-0. So we ask ourselves, which win do we value more? Which win do we think is more impressive? The Islanders scoring 7 or the Rangers shutting out Nashville? For me, the answer is simple. I'm always more impressed with the defensive victory. And that's what I'm looking at here. New York versus Islanders, Prez. I lean towards the under, but forget about the under 5.5. Let's get a nice plus price. Team total under 2.5 goals plus 120. The New York Islanders. If the Rangers win this game, if they get a lead, they got to protect it. That's what they haven't been able to do this year. I feel like that's what they can do against this Islanders team. They have to suffocate them. I talked about how last change and home ice hasn't mattered as much lately, but I think it will benefit New York getting that last change, getting to decide the matchups of their choice. So, guys, oftentimes you get burnt by that empty net goal. When you take the team total under for the team you expect to lose, there's no chance for you to get burnt by the empty net goal. All you need is your team you think is going to win to play great defense. And I think the New York's going to win the game. And I think the New York Islanders will stay under 2.5 goals at plus 120. I don't like these under 5.5 Prez. I prefer doing this team total way. And long term, it's helped me out. Sure, it's definitely burnt me when I'm wrong about the team I think is going to win the game. But it's nice to get that plus 120 here. And I do see a 4-2 victory for the New York Rangers.
Well, you know, at first glance, I wake up this morning, I look at Duke. They're a 20.5 point favorite. And I'm scratching my head thinking, how could anybody in their right mind lay 20.5, even though it is Duke and they're damn good. I mean, they're 26-3 on the season, 16-0 at home, 17-1 in the ACC. They lead the ACC in scoring, 83.2 points per game. They got the best defense in the ACC, 61.1 points per game allowed. But if you know anything about this rivalry between Duke and Wake Forest, these two teams have played close games. Wake Forest is 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings. Wake lost by just 7 at home to Duke earlier this season. And it looks like that money has been coming in on Wake. This line's now down to 19.5 at most books. I wouldn't feel comfortable with my money on either side of this game. So I'm going to focus on the total. And when I look at totals, I like to look at pace of play. I prefer betting on unders rather than overs. But you look at this game, and Duke, they rank 284th nationally in possessions per game. So they play as one of the slowest paced teams in the country. That's normally a recipe for an under. But one thing that stood out to me, their last 3 games, 74.5 possessions per game. They've scored 100 plus in 3 straight at home. They're averaging 99 points per game in their last 5 games overall. This is their final home game. They got a chance to lay a whooping on a Wake Forest team that has given them trouble in the past. I'm going to look at Duke's team total over 82.5, which is actually less than what they average on the season, home or away. I know Wake likes to play them hard, but I'm just not sure Wake can hang in there in this game. And if they can, I think they're going to have to score 70 plus. I think Duke's going to score over 82.5. Let's talk Oklahoma City. They are Canadian. Prez says they're nice. I'm not sure about that. But one thing I can say is that they are young, and it will benefit them to be young when they're playing on back-to-back nights off a 146-132 victory over San Antonio. And back-to-back nights for the Rockets. They're playing the first leg of a back-to-back. They got a game in Indiana tomorrow. And when I look at the injury report for Houston today, it's a bit of a red flag. There's a warning sign there that Houston's waving the white flag. They've got their entire starting lineup listed as questionable with various BS ailments, sore back, not feeling well. It looks like they're going to rest their starters. They're going to throw in the towel for this game, and they're going to go all in for tomorrow's game at Indiana. 4 starters out. Van Fleet is out for sure. 3 other guys with questionable tags. This Oklahoma City team, 25-4 at home, 5-1 straight up in their last 6 home games against Houston. All 5 of those games were double-digit wins. I don't want to lay the 9.5 here, but I will take Oklahoma City minus 5.5 for the first half, as I'm expecting Houston to throw in the towel.
There we go. Kings and Dallas. That's the last game we're talking about tonight. We got Jesse Schul with us. Sacramento minus 2.5. A total here of 235.5. How you betting this one?
Yeah, well, at first glance, you look at this game, Dallas actually opened as a favorite, which appeared to be a bit of an overreaction to the news that Sabonis is out with a hamstring strain. You look at Dallas, Sabonis has not actually been playing that well lately, and I know this because I bet on his points totals a couple times and was really disappointed. In his last 4 games, he scored 14, 7, 12, and then he only played 1 minute in the last game. And the backup center, Jonas Valanciunas, comes in. And the Kings are actually in pretty good shape, losing their leading scorer, losing a player of Sabonis' stature with Valanciunas, who is a capable backup center. Valanciunas scored 15 points, pulled in 14 rebounds. They beat Houston by a score of 113-103. The Kings have won 6 of their last 8. 4 of those 6 wins came on the road, and you got that backup center, Valanciunas, going up against a Dallas front court that is without the likes of Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, and PJ Washington. They are very thin in the front court. I think Valanciunas will feast tonight. I like the Kings. I will take them on the money line, minus that 120 you got there, Press.
I'm going to race through every NHL game on the board. Let's get into it. Washington playing Ottawa tonight. Look, a really, really important game for Ottawa. This team is reeling right now. They got to get themselves back on the winning ways. But Washington also has lost a few games in a row, are struggling. I look at this game and I think stay off the side. I don't love anything here. I lean on under the total of 5.5. I do think we get a low scoring hockey game. I think 3-1 feels about right. That's 4 goals. Take under 5.5. The Rangers are playing the New York Islanders tonight, and my original thought was to take the Rangers, as this is a team I plan on riding moving forward. The only problem here is it's a bad spot for them. We've spoke about this on the show, and the New York Islanders are in absolute fix their season mode. This is a game that I am staying away from sidewise, but I do lean on over the total of 6. So under the total of 5.5 in Washington and Ottawa, over the total of 6 in the Rangers game. Florida playing Tampa Bay tonight. I like a high scoring game here. I like over the total of 5.5 in this game. I think it's going to be a doozy of a hockey game. Montreal and Buffalo. I like the over in this game, and I lean on Montreal here. Montreal playing much better hockey of late and still in the thick of things. They need to win, and they need to win games like this against bottom feeders like Buffalo. I like the over, and I like Montreal. Toronto playing San Jose. This is a terrible spot for Toronto. If they were playing any team that was even slightly better than San Jose, I would be all over that team. With that said, I cannot play on San Jose. We're going to look to take the over in this game and the Toronto Maple Leafs team total over as well. And Chicago is playing the LA Kings. I like under the total of 5.5. That's every game on the board. I'm Lawrence Presman. I have one client play up tonight in the NHL. I am absolutely dominating the NHL, killing it, guys. I won my last 2. I'm now on a 6-2 and 32 and 16 run. I'm the number 1 most profitable NHL expert at WagerTalk, and I have been for a while. Get my NHL play tonight. Thank you, Gianni.
All right, here you go. It's ATP. It's the men's league. It's in Indian Wells. Indian Wells. Let me give it to you now. Ready? 235-970. 235-970. Albert Radu, R-A-D-U. Albert Radu, R-A-D-U. We started betting at plus 210. Stop betting it at plus 180. So 180 or better on Radu, you're good. Here's another dog for you. Chun Sin Cheng, last name T-S-E-N-G. T-S-E-N-G, first name, I believe, Chun, C-H-U-N. All the way good to about plus 120. We started betting them at plus 135 all the way down to plus 120. And let me give you one double-digit dog as well. An easy name, Lucas Klein, K-L-E-I-N. Lucas Klein, K-L-E-I-N. Started betting at plus 225. They had me stop betting it at plus 175. So there's, and one more dog, why not? Because this one's an easier one as well. Christian Guerin, 233-609, 233-609. Christian Guerin at plus 150 or better, because we started betting at plus 170. Stop betting it at plus 150. Those are 4 dogs. Don't know if they're going to go cash any of those. Again, I didn't release those to subscribers, but I did bet them, take a percentage of the account, so I want them to win. But the 2 that we double bet were favorites, unfortunately. You won't be able to get down now anyway, because the one's probably near minus 400 right now, and the other one's got to be over 250. So when they double bet it like that, you just time sensitive. That's why I gave the subscribers quickly. But that's enough for the tennis. We got college hoops because March Madness is up on us. Little college basketball, extra board games. We took Bethune-Cookman at minus 3.5, minus 4, and also Northwestern State minus 1.5 and minus 2. Not a lot of volume so far, but we did bet Northern Colorado. Northern Colorado at minus 7, even laid up the minus 120 to get that 7 because I think it moved a little bit. And we're on the dog against Duke. Took the 20.5, 20 and 19.5 on Wake Forest as well. I got a 4-pack up for you with college basketball premiums. A 4% already in there. And hopefully when the dust settles, we have a winning day and a good week ahead. This is what jumps out at me. But it's probably not 6 anymore. Under in Tampa, Florida. Florida. Islanders and under. Buffalo. And what else? What else do I got for you? And that under in the Kings. Those are 4 that I don't think you lose money betting.